also you're purifying your heart, your spirit, so that you not be preoccupied with anything other than Allah, not with anything. So he said, then you stand with bimahd-dhillati wal-intisab. Then you stand before your Lord, calling to mind these realities, so that you stand before Him in absolute humility and brokenness. We said before about brokenness, this means that we put our reliance completely on God, and we don't see any self-sufficiency in ourselves. We don't regard ourselves as being able to perform this prayer properly unless God intervenes, unless He helps us in every part of it. So we have this brokenness, لِهَيْبَةِ الْمَلِكِ الْقَحَارِ, before the awesomeness, the awesome power of the King, God who possesses everything, every atom, every human being. Al-Qahhar, the compeller, who compels creation to go the way that He has ordained. وَعِزَّةِ الْعَزِيزِ Al-Jabbar, and before the glory of God, the triumphant in His glory, and the Jabbar, the compeller, also the one who mends the hearts. فَيَخْدَعُ لِسُلْطَانِ الْجَلَالِ. So you submit yourself to the power of God's majesty. يُلَاحِظُ مَعْشُوقَ الْجَمَالِ. So the majesty of God are those aspects of God that make Him worthy of fear. And whoever does not fear God does not know God. These are the attributes of His absolute majesty. Lord of the heavens and the earth, Al-Kabir. He is the great, and the great is the one that no one can approach and be great. That as you approach God in any context, when you address yourself to Him, and especially on the Day of Judgment, He is the Kabir and I am the Sadir. I am the insignificant. I am the small. And all creation is that way with regard to Him. Okay, so this is Jalal, and Jalal makes us broken. Jalal makes us conscious of our shortcomings. And it inspires in us the quality of fear and dread and awe. And these are valid and necessary qualities of servanthood. If you do not fear God, you do not know God. And then he says, but at the same time, يُلَاحِظَ مَعْشُوقَ الْجَمَالِ. But at the same time, you recognize the ma'shuq. And the ma'shuq means the one whom you love intensely, meaning God. You recognize God whom you yearn for intensely, whom you love intensely, who is called the Ma'shuq al-Jamal. He is the beloved of beauty, meaning He is the beloved for His beauty, because He is the Lord of Majesty, and the Lord of Majesty may deprive you. We have beautiful eyes, we have eyes that can see, we have ears that can hear, we have hearts that can understand. God in His majesty can take that all away, so that the eyes don't see, they become dark. So that the ears don't hear, they become deaf. So that the tongue cannot speak, it becomes dumb. Allah gives and He takes away. In giving, He shows you beauty. In taking away, He shows you majesty. He does whatever He wills. And in relating to God, as believers who believe in His oneness, then we must prepare ourselves to be conscious of God and to relate to Him in all of his manifestations. كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ. Every day or every moment. At every moment, God is doing something utterly new, utterly unique. So there are times of great beauty when the world flourishes and when everything goes well and there's peace and there's well-being and people are happy and families prosper. And then there are times of darkness and hardship, when there is war and pestilence and tribulation and people are refugees and no one has anything. That this is the way it is. Allah put us here to test us. And these are the implications of His names in creation. That His names of beauty, like the provider, the giver, the most merciful, the compassionate, these are names that draw us close to Him. And we love God because of His beauty. But we must also love Him because of His majesty. And we must know Him in His majesty. And that is one of the highest forms of worship. To be able to be close to God and to have, if you like, communion with Him, discourse with Him, and to be His servant, even when He tests you, even when He takes from you the things that are so important, the things that you love. Okay, so then we begin by being filled with the spirit of Jalal, of His majesty, and therefore we're broken, we are humble, and we are ready to pray as we should pray. Okay, but then we also don't fail to recognize that God is the one whom we love, or whom we should love. He should be our preoccupation by virtue of His beauty. And as it said, you walk with two sandals, the sandal of fear and the sandal of hope. So you walk with the sandal of the awareness of God's majesty, and you walk with the sandal of the awareness of His beauty. And in that is His perfection. وَيَتَضَرَّعُ بِالدُّعَاءِ وَالْإِبْتِهَالِ. And we try to draw close to Him. We call upon Him, by making supplication and ibtihal and earnestly devoting ourselves to Him. بِالتَّثْبِيتِ بَيْنَ يَدَيِ الْكَبِيرِ الْمُتَعَالِ. And the ibtihal, we devote ourselves totally to Him so that He will make us firm in the presence before Al-Kabir, God who is the great. And as we said before, the name great, it is one of those names that always implies mutuality. So God is great, and everything compared to Him is insignificant. Everything compared to Him is little, is saghir and insignificant. And He is exalted in glory. ثُمَّ يَقُولُ. And then we say, Allahu Akbar. So here is the beginning of the prayer. So we say, Allahu Akbar. God is the greatest. God is greater than anything. مُحَقِّقًا أَنْ لَا كَبِيرَ فِي قَلْبِهِ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Realizing. And that doesn't mean just thinking, but it means forging in your heart the reality, establishing in your heart the reality that there is no one who shares that name, that there is no Kabir, there is no being that is great and majestic, with regard to which all other beings are insignificant in this way, but God Himself. So that you put that in your heart. And I would say that, Ibn Ata'Allah says, Al-Bidayatu Majallatu Nihayat. The beginnings are the manifestations of the ends. And, if you have a good beginning, inshallah you'll have a good end. So in praying the Salatul Muqarrabeen, again you prepare, you wash, and when you wash, you're not just washing yourself, your body or your clothes or whatever, but you're also washing yourself of all your worries, of all of your preoccupations, of all of your concerns, and all of your distractions. And then you're calling to mind the greatness of this prayer that you're about to do, as if it were your first and your last. Realizing how great it is, not just for you as a matter of reward, but as a cosmological reality. Okay, and you feel God's Jalal, you feel His Jalal. And then Allahu Akbar. So these words, it's really important, to say them with presence. A lot of times we say them, we don't even know we said them. This Allahu Akbar. Like I started my prayer, we take them for granted. But this is the declaration that puts you in the hurma. It puts you in the sanctity of the prayer. And we want to go into the prayer being as fully conscious as we can possibly be of what those words mean. And then asking Allah, by His grace, to make the words efficacious, to make the words work for us. So that I say that Allahu Akbar, and there is nothing else I can think of now. That this is my prayer. I'm in the presence of the Lord. This is the closest that I can ever be to Him. I am far away from Him. He is closer to me than my jugular vein. So you say that, realizing, and again, stopping to think about this. Don't just rush through your prayer. Allahu Akbar, what did I just say? So think about this. And as we said before, everything you do, the fact that you stand in prayer, the fact that you make that prayer, the fact that you do any act of worship, the fact that you do dhikr, this is a reflection of the shuhud that God has given you in your heart. That in your heart, God has given you a witness of Himself. This witnessing of God goes back to your very beginning, when Allah took you forth from the loins of our father Adam, and He made us bear witness because He manifested Himself to us on the plains of Arafat, where we go for pilgrimage. Alastu bi rabbikum. So this filled your being with shuhud. This filled your being with eternal witness of your Lord. And this is the root of your identity. And then you have shuhud throughout your life. Allah is always sending you spiritual inspiration. You are witnessing your Lord, but usually you're not conscious of that. It's subconscious, it's unconscious, but it is there in your heart, even though you may not be aware of it, because otherwise you would not stand to pray. Otherwise you would not make dhikr. There is no outward dhikr, there is no outward worship, except that it comes from an inward shuhud, as Ibn Ata'Allah tells us, and fikr, and thought. So you've got to think in the prayer. You want your prayer to be shuhud. It comes from shuhud. You already have that water of the unseen in you. You've already got that river flowing through you, even though you're not aware of it. But the fact that you're a believer, the fact that you dress the way you dress, that you come here to learn, that you eat the halal, that you avoid the haram, that you live the life of a believer the best that you can. This shows you have shuhud. Otherwise you wouldn't do it. And it shows also that you have fikr, that you think. But again, in prayer, you want to call this to mind. Get this shuhud. Get this witnessing. Talk to yourself. Speak to yourself. Remind yourself, what am I doing here? Wake up. Make yourself wake up. And then think think, reflect on this. I said Allahu Akbar. Before you say anything else, what does this mean? Like, Allah, remove from me everything but you. Remove from me my thoughts about my family, my work, my problems, everything. Get this out of my heart. The Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that God says, the heavens and earth cannot contain me, but the heart of my believing servant can contain me. And this is the greatest secret about you. And this is why you were created. And this is why Al-Habib Al-Hasan ibn Salih will refer to you in your prayer as a representative of existence before God. That's the way you should think of yourself. You're not just any other person. When you stand before your Lord, it's as if you are the only one who exists. He created you. And in creating you, it's as if you were the only thing created. Because again, He is Al-Kabir. Nothing, with regard to God, nothing can be compared to Him. All the plurality of all the things that exist, all the multiplicity of everything in creation. How many billion human beings are there? And how many generations have been before you and me? And how big is this earth compared to the sun, and compared to the solar system, and compared to the galaxy, and compared to the universe? It's like a speck of dust, right? And on that are how many billion human beings? So what am I? No, that's an illusion. That is an illusion of godlessness. Because all of that world, when we look at it in terms of quantification and measurements, yes, this world is not worth the wing of a gnat in the eyes of God. It's very small. It's very insignificant. And there are lots of human beings. There have to be. This is part of the divine plan. But God relates to everything in creation, to every atom. The atom is not small with regard to God. And the galaxy is not large with regard to God. God relates to the galaxy with the same perfection that He relates to the atom. God knows the atom and the infinitesimally small world of atoms with the same exactness, with the same perfection, with the same absolute disclosure of perfect foreknowledge and hearing and seeing of all that exists as He relates to anything else. So this is what you have to know, because although you live in a world of infinite multiplicity, you have a special relationship to God, which is cosmological, which is absolutely powerful. This is why you will be judged. What did you do with your life? Did you develop yourself? Because you had in yourself everything to be developed. You're not just an ordinary person. You're not an insignificant person. You were created to be a saint. You were created to have the heart that could contain God, in which you can have the throne of the most merciful. You were created to be illuminated. You were created to be a representative of existence before God when you pray. This is you. And don't think, no, this is other people. This is not me. Who am I? I don't know Arabic. I didn't study. Maybe I'm a housewife. Maybe I'm just a regular business person. Whatever. No, that's not true. When you stand before Allah, you are the one who exists. And you are the one at that moment that counts. You have this special relation to Him, and He has this special relation to you. This is very important because we live in a world of empirical science. And our empirical science has done us great good. It has taught us many wonderful things. It has shown us wonders about creation. But at the same time, our empirical science, has it has also been tyrannical in that it rejects other sources of knowledge than sense experience. And when we look at the universe in terms of quantification, in terms of measurements and comparisons, then it creates the illusion that you are insignificant, you human beings. Doesn't really matter if you kill people, doesn't really matter if you create refugees or commit genocide. Who cares? You're just a dot in the universe. You're just a spot. Who could care? No, that's not true. This is a test, and that is a test, and that is an illusion of quantification without understanding the nature of quantification. You, with regard to God, who one of his negative attributes is absolute dissimilarity. He is not like anything. He is not in you. He is not outside of you. He is not physically far from you. He's not physically near you. He's nearer to you than yourself, but not in time and space, in a way that you don't know, in a way that relates to his being. And you are utterly significant, just as everything in his creation is significant. So this is really important. You've got to pray to him, aware of the bounty he bestowed on you and the trust that he put on you by creating you. Okay, so turn to him with everything. And again, the lights that come to you, this is shuhud. You have, when you pray or fast, you pray taraweeh, you do dhikr, you have spiritual highs, right? You get into these beautiful spiritual states. That is the closest that you will ever be to the garden before being in the garden. Your spiritual states, when you have this absolute bliss, this absolute peace, that comes from maybe performing the Hajj, that like, wow, you just feel so good after that, right? That like we're just in ecstasy. Okay, that is the closest, that is like paradise. That's like a taste of paradise. Okay? And God sends lights to your heart, and there are two kinds of lights. There are lights that come to the heart. Okay, they're called anwar al-wusul. They come to your heart, and they make you understand. This is shuhud. If the inner eye, you have the outer eye, the basar, that sees shapes and forms and colors, and you have the basira, the inner eye. The inner eye sees with divine light. And you get light whenever you do good. In the way you dress, you get light. In the way you eat, you get light. You want to keep that light. The more intense that light becomes, the more you understand. And the basira, the inner eye, it sees truth. It sees beauty. It sees meaning. It sees design. So you have lights that come to your heart because you did a good deed. You did something acceptable. So Allah sends you lights so you get stronger. You understand better. You understand more. And then you have anwar al-dukhul. You have the lights of entry. And these are powerful lights, that come to your heart from God and that want to go in your heart. They want to be in your heart. They want to fill your heart. But they cannot go into your heart if there's anything else there. Your heart has got to be empty. And this doesn't mean that the people you love in your heart, like your spouse or your children, your mother, your father, your brothers, and your sisters, it doesn't mean that they're not in your heart. But that's like a metaphor. But it means that that in your heart, my heart is for God. My heart is for Allah Azza wa Jal. And I've gotten everything out of my heart other than that. I don't care anymore about this particular make of car. We need to have this kind of car. We need to have a new car, because our neighbor's got one. I want to have, more shoes. I want to have more clothing. I need to have this. What are we going to fix when the guests come for dinner? And so forth. What am I going to wear to the wedding? Get that out of your heart. Money, wealth, get it out of your heart. Where do you put it? In your hand. The Awliya say that handling money, they say, it's like handling a snake. And they say that the power of the strong servant of God is not the one who kills the snake, but the one who can hold the snake. So they say that with money, it's not that you give it away because you need it. You've got to take care of yourself, you've got to take care of your children, you've got to take care of other people, right? So you use your money wisely. Not like, well, I don't want this money, just give it away to the poor. They say, well, you can do that if you want, but that is not, the highest level. The one is to be able to take the snake and not be bitten by it, which is to take that wealth and to be able to use it carefully, but it's very dangerous. Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, may Allah be pleased with him, said, get the money out of your heart and put it in your hand, and then it won't harm you. Okay, so wealth, bills, mortgage, debt, all these concerns you have. And you've got maybe sick people in your family. And then families always have problems. They have beautiful days and they also have problems. So get that out of your heart. And it means be concerned about it, yes. But let that be in your consciousness. Let that be something that you set about doing. But don't let that be your preoccupation. Is that greater than Allah? Or is that going to be rival in your heart, your Lord? And the lights of entrance, they come to your heart. And if it's empty, they go in. And they don't come out. And your heart becomes filled with light, filled with knowledge, filled with beauty. And then, just as Allah protects the heavens from the shayateen so that they cannot hear the high assembly, He'll protect your heart from the shayateen too. They won't be able to come in. They will be kept out, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. They say these lights of entrance, they're like little birds. That if you have a bird feeder in your backyard, the little birds will come to the trees and they will look first. And if there's a cat, maybe even a squirrel, they probably won't go to the feeder. They come to the feeder when there's nothing there, when they know that they're safe. And that's the way these lights are too. They come to your heart like little birds. And if your heart is filled with all sorts of preoccupations, all sorts of attachments, all sorts of concerns, I can't even think about my prayer. And what do these people say about me? What do these people do to me? And, look how they treated me. And, and then you have, things that are maybe breaking your heart, like, a sick child or a sick grandparent or whatever. Okay, but don't get that out of your heart now. You can pray for them. And when you pray for them with an empty heart that's just for God, God will answer your prayer bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. You will help them bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But now is the time for you to turn to your Lord and get everything out of your heart. Rest. Get everything out of your heart. Allahu Akbar. God is the greatest. There is no kabir but He. Okay, there's nothing else that deserves my attention now. There's nothing else to look at. There's nothing else to be preoccupied with. فَيَطْرَحُ جَمِيعَ مَا سِوَاهُ. So you throw out everything other than God. ابْتِغَاءً رِضَاهُ. Earnestly seeking His contentment, that God will be pleased with you. إِذْ هُوَ رَبُّ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Because He, as you know, is the Lord of everything. وَمَوْلَاهُ. And its protector, its guardian. So you know that, right? We know it in our minds, but now know it in your heart. Call this to mind. مِنْهُ بَدَأَ وَإِلَيْهِ مُنْتَهَاهُ. Everything begins with Him. Everything comes back to Him. وَلْيَحْذَرْ أَنْ يُكَذِّبَ قَوْلَهُ عَمَلُهُ. And let him or her, let you beware, that what you say is belied or is shown to be false by what you do. In other words, like I say these beautiful things, I train myself, to think these things, but then I still don't pray right. I'm still thinking about all these other things. So then I said or I thought something that was truthful, but my action belied it. My action showed it not to be true. So, this is a habit that you want to establish in yourself. And, seek help in Habib Hassan ibn Salih al-Rhodus. That, I want to pray like you pray. I want to be able to do this. God gave you this gift. Can I also have this gift? And as Imam al-Haddad said, Al-'ada idha rasakhat nasakhat. A habit, when it becomes established in you deeply, nasakhat, it repeals other habits. So, in learning to pray the Salat of the Muqarrabeen, we want to create the best habits of prayer that we possibly can. And then they will abrogate, they will repeal all of our bad habits. Because most of us, we have very bad habits in prayer, and in other things too. So we're just used to praying. We don't think about the takbir, we don't think about what we're saying, we don't think about the standing, we don't think about the bowing, we don't think about the prostration. We're hardly even aware we're doing it. We don't even know what unit of the prayer we're in. So this is what we want to do. Okay? We want to establish this good habit. And the good habit gets rid of the bad habits. And this is what we want to do with our lives and everything. Because when you develop a bad habit, the bad habit gets rid of the good habits. In the way we eat, in the way we cook, in the way we feed our families, in the way that we deal with other people, good habits. Develop good habits. And the good habit will get rid of the bad habits. And if we let bad habits come in, they will get rid of the good habits. So pay attention to what benefits you. Getting up for Fajr, trying to stay up after Fajr if you can. Having your wird that you do regularly, which is inshallah not too much. Don't take too much on yourself, because then you'll only be able to keep it for a while and you'll give it up. But always, try to develop good habits. So he says that, وَلْيَحْذَرْ أَنْ يُكَذِّبَ قَوْلَهُ عَمَلُهُ. And let him or her, let us beware, that our action not belie, not show to be false, what we say, what we do, what we think. Okay? بأن يبقى له مطلوب أو محبوب غير الله. And how would that be? How would it be that your action negate or belie, what you said or what you're thinking? And that would be that there remain for you anything that you're seeking and anything that you love other than Allah. This is your prayer. Allah is your matlub. You are seeking Allah. This is your greatest dhikr of all. Nothing is greater than that. There's nothing else you're seeking, nothing else that you love. بإذن الله تعالى. فمع الكبير القدير فمع الكبير القدير لا يرضى بالحقير الصغير. Because in the context of speaking about God, who is the great, with regard to whom everything else is insignificant. And he makes everything significant by virtue of its relationship to him. Again, that's what we talked about, that I am insignificant with regard to God in his lordship. I am just a speck of dust. I am created from nothing. I am a pauper and I am a bankrupt. I have nothing to give him. Anything that I can give him, he gave me. Okay, that's true. He is al-kabir, I am as-saghir. He is the great, I am the insignificant, I am the small. Okay, but with regard to his relationship to me, in that he is my Lord, and he created me in his power, in his knowledge, in his wisdom, with his will, with his power, and he made me and you the sons and daughter of Adam, and he gave me a heart that has the potential to know him, then I am very significant. So you have this interplay that, when I look at myself, in terms of myself, my origin is nothing, and I am nothing. I did not create myself. I have no power to sustain myself. Any good that I have is a gift given to me by my Lord, which he can take away just like that. Okay, so in this sense, I am Saghir, and he is Kabir. But in another sense, he is Kabir, so I am also very significant, because I must know him, and I must empty this heart of everything but him, so that he can fill it. And this is why we're created. We are created for a purpose that is beyond your imagination. You are a great creation. You are a great human being. And therefore you will be held responsible. What did you do with your life? What did you do with every moment of your life? What did you do with the knowledge you were given? This is not a game. It's not a game. This life is momentous. And we see our own Muslim brothers and sisters, do horrible things and say horrible things and have rivalries and enmities and, be preoccupied with the most trivial things. And just be thankful that you're not like that. Because that's tawfiq. Allah gave you a special blessing. He opened your heart. He made you aware. So you be thankful for that. And don't be preoccupied with them. You pray for them. Allah, recite the Fatiha for the ummah of this blessed Prophet ﷺ, from the first to the last. Okay? But you're concerned with yourself. You will be judged. And Allah is merciful. But, al-amru jid, this matter of this life is very serious. So in conjunction with Al-Kabir Al-Qadir, God, who is the great, who has power over all things, no one can be content with what is insignificant and small. And what is insignificant and small? My mortgage, my education, my job, my worries, my loves, everything. Because all of this too is totally under the power of God. So get that out of your heart now. This will make you healthy. You've got to be able to break away. You've got to be able to cut this off. You've got to be able to use that brilliant mind that God gave you to cut the rope. That now I'm just going to pray for 5 minutes. But in these 5 minutes, I am going to cut myself off from everything else and turn to my Lord. And if you can do that, subhanAllah, that is a gift for you and creation. Again, as Al-Habib Hassan says, you are the representative of existence. That's who you are. Whether you're a housewife or whether you're a working woman or whatever you may be, you've got to think of yourself like that. And then he says, فَيَرْمِي جَمِيعَ الْهُمُومِ. So you should throw all of your worries behind your back. وَيَشْهَدْ قِيَامَهُ بِكُلِّ مَعْلُومٍ. And you should witness, God's lordship, in supporting and in creating and in sustaining everything that he knows, everything in his infinite knowledge. So again, you do have your humum, and they will come back to you. You do have your responsibilities, but you have now stood before Allah, the Lord of the world, who has all of that. That's all a function of his will. That is all under his power. So you just turn to him alone and leave that all aside. Then he will fill your heart with light. Then he will make you come closer and closer and closer. Okay, then let's skip a little bit. Okay. Do Hanafis say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim in the prayer? Okay, good. All right. That's what I thought. Do they say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem? Okay, good. All right. Sorry, I didn't know. Okay, so ثم تحصن به من كيد رأس الغواة لياذا بعزة الله من كيده وبلواه بقوله أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. So then, at this time we'll skip to this, all right? So at this time then, let's say you instead of he, you put yourself in the fortress of protection. You put yourself in the castle where you will be safe. You put yourself in the fortress, of God from the stratagem, from the tricks of the head of all those who lead astray. With shaitan. Many things lead astray, right? You are tested by 4 great enemies. You're tested by shaitan, Satan, and Satan is a being who was created to test you. And he is the manifestation of error and of misguidance. And misguidance is stamped on his name. And he is damned, and he will be punished, an eternal punishment, in the depths of the fire. Yet, strangely, given the nature of his being, he is like a religious fanatic, in that he will never let you go. And he never let your mother go, he never let your father go, he will never let your children go, he never let your grandparents go. And it's not just that he doesn't like you. And it's not just that he doesn't like, haven't you done enough? How many people have you led astray? That's not his nature. Because in his leading people astray, he is like a religious fanatic. And he is impelled by hasad, by envy, and by the desire to destroy. But this is his nature. So he will never let you go. This is his type of worship. And he was a fanatic before he fell, and he's a fanatic after he fell. Satan, before he fell, was with the angels, even though he's a spirit. And he was called the great knower of God, the Arif, and he was called the Zahid, the ascetic, and he was called the Abid, the great worshipper. And he worshipped God for thousands of years. And he made tawaf around the throne, and he gave admonition to the angels. And he had a beautiful name in every heaven, because his reality was not known. His reality was not known to him. His reality was not known to the angels. It was known to God. And then when Adam is created, creation becomes full. Creation becomes complete. And that's because Adam alayhi salam is the full embodiment of the light of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, although that light had been there from the beginning. When Jabir ibn Abdullah, the blessed companion, was a little boy, because he's one of the young companions. Ibn Abbas was only 12 when the Prophet died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ibn Abbas knew the Prophet as a little boy, and Jabir that way too. And so Jabir, he asked the Prophet the question of a little boy. What was the first thing God created? He says, what was it? Because he's a little boy, he wants to know. The great Sahaba, like Abu Bakr and Umar, they wouldn't ask that question. He's a little boy. He says, what was the first thing God created? And he said, Nur al-Nabiyyika ya Jabir. It was the light of your Prophet, Jabir. And then that's a beautiful hadith, and it is an authentic hadith. It has transmissions, especially in Musannif ibn Abi Shaybah, in the manuscript. For some reason, it didn't get in the printed book. This is a big problem, because there are certain people, certain groups that often have influence in the printing of books today. So you have to be careful. The books, even Bukhari and Muslim, they don't necessarily have in them everything, because there are hadith in there which certain people don't like. And this, but in Musannaf ibn Abd al-Razzaq, it has a sahih transmission. The light of your Prophet. And that light is there in all things. It's there in the heavens, the earth, the stars. And then its greatest manifestation is in the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. And the greatest moment, in the symphony of creation, is when the Blessed Prophet, in the ascension, meets his Lord. Sirr al-Khalwati al-Ilahiyya. He is the secret of the private meeting with God. The Prophet is beautiful, and the Prophet has a perfection in creation that no other created being has. And creation works in amazing ways. But when Adam is created, then now, the wisdom of God in creation is being fulfilled, and reality takes on new dimensions. Now there is a being who is not angelic, who has the ability to be higher than the angels, and who has, because he's created from clay, all perspectives of being in him, negative and positive. And from his children will come people who are the prophets and the messengers and the great saints, and there will come others who are murderers and killers and evil people. And when this is done, then Satan is, as it were, demoted. Because now a reality appears in Satan that was always there, but it could never appear because there were no human beings. And now he becomes a mudil. That all the time he was actually the misguider. Even in his worship before. It was a secret hidden to him and to others. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to keep us safe and to keep us good and to let there be no secrets about ourselves that demote us. But Satan then goes into this new mode that I will lead them all astray and I will never stop, almost as an act of worship. Just as I worshipped you for thousands of years, never stopping. And I did everything right outwardly, but not inwardly. Then I will lead every single one of them astray. I will not sleep. I will not rest. So this is Satan. He is your enemy. And the world is your enemy. The world is also the means by which you live. You have to work, you have to do things, you have obligations, right? But the world, get it out of your heart. Put it in your hand. Your money, your debts, all these concerns you have, family problems, get them out of your heart. Put them in your hand. And pray to Allah. And do the best you can do. Get counsel. Get help. Okay, and human beings and us, other people, we need each other. We help each other. We cooperate with each other. We complement each other. I can't do but very little. What I can do is just in a little area. But, look, you have people that know how to set up this, how to do these cameras, how to put this online, how to organize events, how to fund them, how to make money and to help other people. I don't know how to do that. So we need each other, and we have to cooperate with each other. We have to work with each other. We have to be a single hand. Okay, and it takes two hands to wash each other, right? But people are also your big test. Because they have expectations of you. And a lot of times you have to fulfill their expectations. But what if their expectations are not right? Would you be able to stand before them if they blamed you? What if they backbite you? What if they speak evil of you? What if they go against you? Will you have the strength to stand your ground? Because that is a test that almost always comes. Who are you devoted to? Who is your Lord? Who is your Lord? And this is right. I will take this stand. And maybe you lose a lot of friends. Maybe they weren't really your friends after all. Okay? But, people are a test, and the greatest test of all is the nafs, the ego. The ego, which is stronger than 70 Satans. Right? It is stronger than 70 Satans. And the ego is very difficult. It's like the bride of darkness. And your ego, your nafs, it will grow, inshallah, it will grow, it will transform. We don't kill it, we don't get rid of it. We don't mortify the flesh. You have to work with it intelligently and gracefully so it can grow. But it is always a problem. And Satan manifests himself to you in 99 different ways, according to the 99 names, the 99 foundational names. No matter where you are, no matter what you do, no matter how good you may be, Satan has a new disguise. And he will approach you. He came through the back door last time, now this time he comes through the window. He came through the front door last time, now he comes through the back door. He came to you in pride one time, now he comes to you broken. Okay, he knows he has ways, but the nafs is 70 times more dangerous. And we strive against ourselves. We fast the fast of Ramadan. MashaAllah, that gives you tremendous power over your nafs. You've got to be able to say no to the nafs. Who is your Lord? The Lord is the one who commands. The Lord is the one who says, do this, don't do that. Your God, God as Ilah, we talked about that here, even though we didn't speak about it very much. But Allah is the one who makes everything as it should be made, even if it is deformed, even if it's sick, even if it is withered, even if it is good or evil. God makes everything the way that it should be made, given its identity and given his wisdom and knowledge for the test of this life. So in his divinity, God makes the glass as the glass should be, and he makes the water as the water should be. Okay, but as Lord, Rabb, who also brings you up stage by stage and directs you and educates you. As the Rabb, he commands. Do this, don't do that. Alastu bi rabbikum. He did not say alastu bi ilahikum. He says alastu bi rabbikum. That means something a little bit different. It means that am I not the one who will command you? Am I not the one who will prohibit? Because that's what the Rabb does. And you said, Bala, how could it be any different than that? You're our God. You're our Creator. We love you. We know you. Of course, why did you ask the question? Bala. It's like, Yes, but why did you ask? That's because something's in store for you. You're going to be tested. And I'm going to put the garden before you and the fire. And you will go to one or the other. And that is the truth. And it's not just about morality and immorality. It's about something more profound than that, which is the reality of your heart, which enables you to stand before God, as a representative of existence. And no other being can do that the way that the son and daughter of Adam can do it. Okay? So then where is your nafs? Your nafs is the little Pharaoh in you. Pharaoh says, Ana rabbukum al-a'la. I am your highest Lord. Why? Because I tell you what to do, and I tell you what not to do. I am the commander. I am the prohibitor. That's also what he means by that. When I tell you to do something, you do it. I'm Pharaoh. When I tell you not to do it, you don't do it. You listen to me. That's the way your nafs is. You say, I have to get up for Fajr, but I didn't get to bed last night until 12 o'clock. Okay? The nafs says, don't get up. No, your Lord says, get up. You get up. Who do you obey? You're going to make your nafs your Lord. And your Lord said, your nafs says, don't do this. You don't have to do that. You've done so much. So it's prohibiting. So it's very important. The nafs, you work on your nafs and you break it. You won this battle. You defeated your nafs. Look at you. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Look, you were so good in Ramadan. And then the nafs comes back in disguise, in masquerade. And you don't recognize it this time. And then it takes a different strategy. And it defeats you. And it takes revenge. Why did you do this to me? Look at what you did to me. This is why we have to have brothers and sisters. This is why we have to have counsel. This is why you have to take refuge in God from Satan and from everything else. And this is also why we need spiritual guidance. Because this is ultimately the role of the sheikh and the sheikhah. Of the men and women sheikhs. That they trap your soul. They trap the nafs. They outfox it. They outmaneuver it in a way that I can't do. They do. They're foxes. Awliya Allah Ta'ala, the saints of God, are foxes. They outfox your nafs. They know where it's going. You don't know. And they help you with that. And this is the sunnah of the Prophet. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the one who affected the nufus of his Sahaba. He helped them to be protected from Satan, from the world, from people, and from themselves. And he purified them. And one of the greatest signs, of his tremendous success, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is Hadith Jibreel, which we've talked about before. The beautiful Hadith of Gabriel, which you all know. When Gabriel comes in the form of a man wearing brilliant white clothes with his black hair, no sign of travel on him, no one knows who he is. Medina is a little village. Everybody knows everybody else. They would know this man if he was from Medina. He's not from Medina. And he had to travel to get here. But there's no sign. He's not hot, he's not sweaty, he's not dusty, he doesn't have to take a bath. He's radiant, he's beautiful. And he comes and he sits down before the Prophet to ask questions and to teach the Sahaba, which shows the Sahaba are now worthy of the visit of Gabriel, who had visited the Prophet ﷺ 21 years before. This is maybe 2 years before the Prophet's death. This is what our muhaddiths say about that hadith. It comes right towards the end. And it shows us the status of the Sahaba, that they are now worthy of the visit of Gabriel himself, the teacher of our Prophet, that he will teach them directly. But this shows that their selves, their egos, are completely where they ought to be. They can see Gabriel, they can hear him. They don't know who it is until they're told. They think it's a human being. He comes in human form. So then he says after that, you say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge in God from Satan, the rejected, the cursed, And again, think about what you say. Think about what you say. وكذلك نوي الاستعاذة من جميع الأغيار والخواطر النفسانية والحظوظ الشهوانية. So here he's saying, please keep this in mind. He said, and also intend when you say this, I seek refuge in Satan, the outcast. I seek refuge in Satan, the outcast. That also I am seeking refuge in that from everything other than God. Al-Aghyar, from everything other than God. Good and bad. Good and bad. So you're seeking knowledge. You're memorizing the Quran. You're learning tajweed, mashallah. You also seek refuge from that. Because I don't want that to go to my head. That now I'm better than all the other sisters because I know tajweed. They don't know tajweed. I've memorized Quran. How much have you memorized? Oh, I've memorized how many juz? You didn't memorize any. See? So every act of worship that we do, may it be just for you, God, the Lord of the worlds, not for me. That's the ego. That's the ego. The ego loves, you're going to go memorize Quran. You think your nafs doesn't like that? Of course, at first I say, don't do that. We don't have time for that. You're too busy. Once you start to do it, say, good for you. Good for you. What a great thing you did. I'm going to be a hafiz now. And I can tell everybody I'm a hafiz. And then when we go in Ramadan, they'll have to make me the imam, and I'll be the imam. And everybody will think that I am somebody. So that's the nafs. So you seek refuge in that. Seek refuge in everything. Throw the world behind your back. Get it out of your heart. Let the little birds come in to your heart, the birds of light, and find nothing there. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Fill it with the light of God. Wal khawatir. And thoughts. Meaning here, the thoughts that occur to us, not the thoughts that we think. Because thinking is one thing, that thinking, I'm going to think about this, and that leads to this, and that leads to this, and that leads to this. And again, thinking is essential to your spiritual elevation. Shuhud and fikr, right? You have the witnessing of God in your heart, and then you have also reflection, thinking. Think about yourself. Think about your life. Think about what is important. That's not khawatir. Khawatir are the things that occur to you that you weren't thinking about. All of a sudden, what happened to me? Why am I thinking about, what I'm going to do next month? I'm thinking about what so-and-so said about me. Why am I thinking about something somebody said yesterday? Okay, these are khawatir. These are thoughts that just happen. They just occur. And sometimes they're good. Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah be pleased with him, he's very beautiful. Imam Abu Hanifa is a very beautiful man. He was a beautiful man. He's a Persian. He's a Persian noble. He's a descendant of Persian nobility. He's very handsome. He was very intelligent, very humorous also. But this man came to him. He said, I lost my money. He said, I had all this money and I buried it somewhere to protect it. And I don't remember where I buried it. And I look everywhere. I can't find it. It's a lot of money. How can I find it? He said, just go, and make salah and begin to pray, and you'll find it. He said, I did it. He said, I was praying, and then all of a sudden I began to think about my money, and I found it. Because these are the khawatir. And the shaitan okay, how can I keep him from praying? How can I, your money. Where did you put it? You put it there. That reminds me also of in Eritrea, my first principal shaykh, and many of my shaykhs and shaykhs, they were Eritreans, East Africans, Ethiopians from down towards the coast. And they use donkeys a lot. And donkeys are very smart, even though we wouldn't think that. You think donkeys are very stupid. But in some ways, donkeys are very smart. And, they would bury their grain, their wheat and their corn and their maize. Mostly they grow maize and wheat. And they would dig these big holes in the ground. And then they take adobe, clay, and they put it around the walls to keep water out. And they dry it, and then they put all their wheat in the ground. And then they cover it, they put adobe on it, and then they cover it over, and nobody knows where it is. So this is the way that they protect their wheat and their corn and stuff like that. And, they take the donkey, he's carrying the wheat, and they take him to the hole, and they dump it, and then they take it back. And this one person, he forgot where he buried his wheat. And he couldn't remember. They said, no problem, just take the donkey, put sacks on his back, put rocks in them, and, hit him, so he starts walking, and he'll take you there. And he goes top, 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 and he goes to the left or right, and then he comes and stops at the spot. They don't forget. But we ask Allah Azza wa Jal, when we do the isti'adah from Satan, to also take refuge from the khawatir, from the thoughts that occur to us. Because, as you know, and as I know, it's like, where does this come from? I mean, in dhikr, the same thing. It's like, wait a minute, I'm thinking about what now? How did this happen? How did I get here? You get derailed. You get, detoured. And, we don't want that. Not in Salah. And the khawatir can be very good. They can also be very bad. You can have good ones and bad ones. They can come from yourself. They can come from Satan. They can come from other things as well. But in Salah, we don't want that. In Salah, we want to have just Allah Azza wa Jal and just what we are reciting, just what we are saying. We want to be totally in this dhikr. Okay? So you also seek refuge from the khawatir, although he says an-nafsaniyah. He says the khawatir that comes from the nafs. And probably that qualifies what I was just saying, because there are also khawatir that come from angels, and there's khawatir that comes from Allah too. So you don't want any of the khawatir that come from shaitan and come from the nafs. That's probably closer to what he meant by that. And then he says, وَالْحُظُوظ الشَّهْوَانِيَّةِ, and gratifications. Hadh. So we have three things, which are problematic. We have shahwa. Shahwa is appetite. And usually when we talk about shahwa in a negative way, we mean blameworthy appetite. Appetite, for things that are not right. Okay, because also you have shahwa that is not blameworthy. And that's an important part of a normal and fulfilled life. So there are times you're hungry, you want to eat. You're thirsty, you want to drink. But we don't want any shahwa, that is blameworthy. And also you have hawa. Hawa is passion. And again, hawa can be good, but usually it's not. Hawa is usually blameworthy because it goes to extremes. And we use hawa, appetite is usually something that is, gives us immediate pleasure and pain. And it can be abstract, often it's not abstract, but hawa is usually, it's like when the things we want overpower us. And hawa is from the word that means to fall. To fall like long distances. Hawa, yahwi min as-sama, to fall from the sky, to fall from heaven. And the hawa are those passions, and those appetites, and those desires that we have that we cannot resist. It's like they just take us and we fall. And maybe we even know that I'm going to do this. I can't stop myself from doing it. That's hawa. It's like, It's as if you were falling. And you can't stop it now. And that's why it's very important never to open those doors. It's very important to keep those doors shut. Because once you open the door of Hawa, you would be very exceptional not to fall, not to be hurt by that. So we seek refuge from Hawa. And a lot of Hawa, like some of the strongest Hawas, are like, for example, the love of leadership, the love of prominence. It's not just things that would be clearly immoral, but like I want to be first, and I want to be the one who sits in the big chair, and I want to be the one that sits behind the big desk, and I want to be the one who's called the chairman or the chairwoman. I want to be the one who's the president. I want to be the one that people look up to. I want to be the one who gets up and speaks after Salah, puts on the microphone. Everybody looks at me. They don't know my name, but they know I'm special. Okay, this is really hard to get out of the heart. And they say that the last thing that is removed from the hearts of the Awliya is the love of leadership. And people fight over that. If I can't be the head of this mosque, then I will destroy this mosque. I'll take you to court. I will take you, make people look at your tax accounts and everything. I should have been the head of the mosque. How did you dare? And this is a big problem for us in our community. It's a big problem for human beings in general. But like Muslims, we get a big allotment of this, so that it's like, you get certain brothers and sisters in positions of authority, they will hold on to them to the day they die. They'll never step down. It's like, some of the mosques in some cities, it's like, the people on the board are like, their grandfathers and great-grandfathers. And it's like, they've got a lot of young people. Couldn't you get somebody up here who's 30 years old now? Who belongs to the new generation? They're not going to overthrow you, right? They're not going to kick you out, but they speak a different language. They understand the new generation. They can't do it. They can't do it. They can't give it up. They can't. And then look at these tyrants in the Muslim world. That I will kill my people. I will destroy my people. I will blow up the buildings. I cannot give up this leadership I have. For what? You're going to, how long do you live? The greatest emperors in the world, they're lucky if they live for 12 years as emperors, 15. There's some that have long reign, but usually, Catherine the Great of Russia, all her gold everywhere in palaces. How long was she the emperor? I don't think it's more than 12 years. You really got taken to the cleaners. What does she get out of that now? She's buried next to her husband, whom she killed. I was in Russia last year, and we got to visit the Romanovs, and wow, talk about people who love gold. They put it everywhere. But Catherine the Great is buried right next to Peter III, whom she killed. Like, what kind of company is that? So we seek refuge, from, al-hudud al-shahwaniyya. So these are also, then we have hadh. Hadh means your portion, your allotment. And I think a good translation of it is gratification. Because usually hadh is permissible, your hudud. So you have a nice coat, you could have another one. That's a hadh, that's gratification. You have how many pairs of shoes? I remember that the sister invited me and my wife, to come to her house for dinner. And she said, there'll just be a few people here. Me and so and so and so and so. And then I opened the door and it's like, she must have brought all the city. There's so many shoes. And we stepped over the shoes and there are just a few people there. They're all her shoes. It's like she has a pair of shoes for every day of the year. Allah bless her. But that's a hadh. And I don't say that that's haram. I mean, my wife's closet is also full of shoes, but the hudud are the gratifications. And in spiritual progress to Allah, you want to begin to cut down the hudud, the gratifications, so that everything is just for Allah. Everything, take what you need. And then the other things, like you can give to the poor, you can feed the homeless, you can give it to the mosque, you can help build things, and be content with what you've got. So you also seek refuge in God from hudud, from gratifications. Let me be happy with little. Let me be happy with what is respectable, what is necessary, but I will give this up. I can give this up. And when you can give up the hudud, you can give up the gratifications which are allowed to you, but like I give it up for the sake of Allah, that is a great spiritual step. Then he says, Bismillah. Okay, so now we're doing the Basmala. Bismillah, وَتَحَقَّقْ أَنَّ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ قَائِمٍ بِإِسْمِهِ. So now realize, and as we said before, when he says realize, he doesn't mean just be aware, like I realized that you came yesterday. No, it means make it a reality in your heart. Make this a reality that you see. So realize, make it a reality in your heart that everything that exists by virtue of His name. Bismillah. Kun fayakun. Be, and it is. As you probably know, I'm sure that all of you, or most of you, have studied theology. We believe that God is the creator and the sole creator. He is the fa'al. He is the ultimate cause of everything. And everything that exists, like this glass, is a veil of power. That this glass does not exist in and of itself. It's not just a function of the inherent power of minerals and molecules and glass that was put through the furnace. Even though all that happened, we know it happened. This is the sunnah of Allah. But this glass exists because God says, be. 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 Just like your heartbeat. Be. 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 So also be. Be. Every atom, in everything that's organic or inorganic, the atom, has this tiny little nucleus, which is all the weight of the atom, and around that are the electrons, or the electron that moves, the electron going around the nucleus millions of times, every millionth of a second. And the electron gives the sense that it is solid. And the nucleus gives the sense that it has weight. And all of this is a sign of creation from nothing. Because this is what we believe. This is what the ancient Christians and Jews also believed, that God creates from nothing. Creation is a sheer act of divine foreknowledge, divine will, and divine power. And things have no continuity in and of themselves. They exist from moment to moment by virtue of the fact that God wills them to be. He recreates them. So they are, metaphorically, like a film in which you have a frame, followed by a frame, followed by a frame. But because the frames move so quickly before the camera, it looks like the people are actually talking and moving. They're not. Those are just pictures. They're frames. That's the way creation is too. And everything that exists, this glass, it exists by virtue of God's will and God's name. So as you say, Bismillah, think of that. This is his recommendation to you. Think of that. Just stop. Because again, you want to get all creation out of your mind. You want to get all things out of your mind. So all those things, the money, the worries, the people, the problems, everything, they're like that too. God created them. They exist from moment to moment sheerly by the power of God. So Bismillah, think of that when you say it. Bismillah. Okay, so everything exists, it is established, qa'im, it's standing, it's existing by virtue of His name. Mahutun bi'ilmihi, it is encompassed and protected by His knowledge. God has knowledge of this glass before the creation of the heavens and the earth. God sees it and hears it as it exists. God speaks of this glass in His eternal uncreated speech. God's uncreated eternal speech speaks of everything that is in God's knowledge. So God has spoken of this. This is in the tablet of light. The fact that I'm drinking from it, and you're sitting there, I'm sitting here, all of this exists because God created it. It was in His foreknowledge before the creation of the heavens and the earth. So again, be aware of what you are doing. Do not take this prayer for granted. Be obliterated in this prayer. Lose yourself in the prayer. That's the muqarrab. That's the muqarrab. وتحقق الألوهية السارية في جميع الوجود, and realize, make this a reality in your heart, your awareness of uluhiyya, of divinity, because we said Bismillah, we said Allah, the name of divinity, the greatest of all names of divinity. So be aware of divinity, of the divinity that flows through all existence. Meaning by that God creates everything as He wills it to be and as it should be in the best of all possible worlds. That this glass is exactly as it should be, in this moment, in this time, in this place, in my hand. Okay, it's the will of God. He created it. And again, as we said, the nature of divinity is that it makes things exactly as they ought to be. In the moment, in the place, in the way that they are. So also be aware of that. Because the problems you have, who created those problems? The worries you have about things, who created those things? The troubles that you have, that may be like, why can't I be this way? Why can't I do that? What's wrong with me? Who made you that way? This is divinity, that flows through all existence. God made you perfectly in all of our imperfections, in all of my imperfections. God made us just the way that we were supposed to be tested in the way that we are to be tested. And we say that this is the best of all possible worlds. And we don't say that cynically, and we don't say that to mean that we don't understand that you have rats in your basement, or that your father is sick, or that we have some sort of illusion that the world that you live in is something like paradise. No, it's not. But this world, all the good that happens in it, all the evil that happens in it, happens under the aegis of the absolute infinite wisdom of God. So the worst things that happen, like the death of Imam al-Hussein, this is one of the worst things that ever happened in any people on earth. Did it happen by the wisdom of God? Of course it did. Was there good that came out of it? There had to be. Even though we call that wisdom al-hikmatul majhula. We call it unknown wisdom. I don't want Imam Hussein to have been killed. And I love Imam Hussein, and he is the Imam of every Sunni. And he is a Sunni. Don't ever think that. Who are his children? Umar Akbar, Umar al-Asghar, Abu Bakr, Uthman. And he has Zayn al-Abidin and the others also. Zayn al-Abidin, what does he name his children? Also Umar. All the Ahlul Bayt, you always see this. Imam Ali. Imam Ali has many children, not just Al-Hassan and Hussein. And he has also Umar, he has Abu Bakr, he has, you can see this, look at their genealogies. So, and we love them, but whatever happens, you've got to understand that Allah created a test for you that no one else could pass. And He has things happen in this ummah that tempt His wrath to destroy. Because we are here to be tested. So you must accept the test. And by understanding that God's divinity flows through all existence, then even though the situation turns my hair gray, and I can't sleep at night, that this is divine wisdom, and it is the best of all possible worlds. I can't see the way out. I don't know when this will ever end. I cannot see light at the end of the tunnel. But you've got to know that God willed this to be, so it will bring good. You just be patient. You just be strong and pass the test. Okay, so this is really beautiful. You said Bismillah. You said the name of Allah, the name of divinity. And so you know that, again, God's will, God's power, God's knowledge. Everything that He creates is created out of the selection of possibilities that are infinite. Infinite. And God knew all other possibilities. What if the glass were a little bit taller? What if the glass had in it milk and not water? Infinite possibilities. And yet God chose this one. Because this is the best one. Even though that seems to you insignificant. It seems to be insignificant, but it's not. There is nothing insignificant from the standpoint of divinity. We are insignificant when we forget our Lord, or when we approach Him and ask Him forgiveness. Okay, so His, Bismillah, that your divinity flows through all existence. Whatever is in my world, how difficult it may be, however great the test it may be, and when will this ever end? I don't see any end in sight, and then it does end. And it's as if it had never been. At least I hope it's that way for you, because there are also other people who, they never forget. You have certain people that feel they've been wronged, and they never forget. If you sit down with them and you open that chapter, they'll pull out their book, you did this, you did this, you did this. Like, you still remember that after 30 years? Because I forgot that all 30 years ago. So we go from one present to another present moment. Don't be a person who holds on. They did this to me, they did that. I'll never forget that. I met a woman from Pakistan, who had a horrible marriage. Allah make her life easy for her. And, but she has 4 sisters-in-law who never got married. And they're like, they'll probably never get married now. And they blame her because she got married to their brother. They make war on her. It's like, what's wrong with you? They make her life impossible. She lives in their house. It often happens in Pakistan, right? She lives in the house. And they never let her off anything. And her great crime is that she married her brother and they never got married. It's like, do you pray? And probably they don't, from what she said. But, it's like if you pray that, look, okay, you didn't get married. That's really sad. That's really sad. And you probably never get married. And that's really sad. But God's divinity flows through all existence. You've got to accept it. And now turn to your Lord. Turn to your Lord and ask Him to forgive you. Ask Him to renew you. And do something with your life. Do something with your life. May Allah enable us, to meet people's needs and, to overcome these problems. Huge problems. Al-Qa'imati bil-hikmati fi kulli haddin wa mahdud. His name, His divinity that flows through all existence. And that establishes, Bible, and that is established by wisdom in everything, in every limitation, in everything that is limited, in everything, in every definition, in everything defined, in everything that exists. So God's wisdom is in everything. Mercy is the stamp of creation. Wisdom is the stamp of creation. Nothing happens but there's wisdom in it. So I don't know the wisdom, it's majhula. It's unknown to me. Why did that happen? Why did Muslim Spain fall? Wow, that hurts my heart, because I know that beautiful land. Portugal, I know it, I've traveled there. And if you knew what was there, it would break your heart. It would break your heart. It was destroyed, wiped out, people massacred. And then the majority Muslim population that remained after that, after 1615, it's like, you're not Moriscos anymore. We banished 2 million Moriscos. They're all gone. No, they're not gone. The vast majority of the people are still Moriscos. You have no legal existence in this land anymore. As Moriscos, you're Spanish. Even though you're not. You're converts who were forced to convert. And you can see it. This brother came to me who took Shahada in Ramadan, and I knew he was a Palestinian. He looks 100% Palestinian. He's Spanish. And interestingly, a Palestinian came who I knew was Spanish. And we were singing these old Spanish songs of love of the Prophet in medieval Spanish. And I thought, this guest will really like that, because he's Spanish. You could just look at him and see he was Palestinian. He didn't know a word of Spanish. So Spain falls. A lot of times, especially with Spanish and Portuguese converts, one of the most difficult things when they embrace Islam is to remain sane. Because now they discover the deen, this beauty, and now they begin to really taste what Muslim Spain must have been like. And they can't bear it. How did this happen? Who were these people who did this? Okay, it's wisdom. It's wisdom. So just you have to accept it. And now we work to try to bring this back to life. Do the best that we can. Okay, but in everything, وَفِي كُلِّ مُقَرَّبٍ وَمَبْعُودٍ, and in everything that is brought near to God, like you, and in everything that's put at a distance, like the people who don't pray, the people who don't know God, they're mab'ud, they are put at a distance. Okay? فَإِذَا قُلْتَ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ, so when you say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most gracious, the most merciful, فَاشْهَدْ رَحْمَتُهُ الْوَاسِعَةَ لِجَمِيعِ الْوُجُودِ. So now witness. Don't pray so fast. Stop and think. What did you just say? If you knew these words of the Fatiha, they would suffice you forever. Everything in the Quran is in the Fatiha. All of the knowledge of God, infinite knowledge, is in the Fatiha. And it said that all of that is in the Basmala. And all of that is in the Ba. And all of that's in the dot under the Ba. But that's the truth. That's the truth. That's the nature of this divine speech. So it has everything in it. May Allah open our hearts. And may He make us people who are worthy of the Quran, and who, may we always recite the Quran and relate to the Quran with complete adab, wash ourselves, control ourselves, give it its right, honor the Mus'haf. Then it will guide you. Because also it is a book that guides and misguides. If I approach it haughty, and if I approach it full of doubts and cynicism, it will show me my doubts and cynicism. Because, that's the way it is. You'll see your own reflection in it. Just as we see our own reflections in each other. The believer is the reflection of the believer. So when you say Ar-Rahman, now you witness, stop and think, and see God's mercy. His all-enveloping, His extensive mercy in all of existence, not just all of creation. Existence is much greater than creation. Existence is huge. Okay, so you see that. So again, it's like, you're seeing God's divinity in all things. You're throwing your worries and your troubles behind your back. But now, and you're seeing that His wisdom is in all things. But now His mercy is in all things. Even in the things you don't like. Even in the things that are the most difficult for you. And mercy is a very special word. When we think of mercy in English, what we are usually thinking of is something like forgiveness. To be merciful, to be forgiving, to be tolerant. But that's not really the main meaning of mercy. The main meaning of mercy is to give the other what they need to flourish and to benefit. And akramakumullah, in Arabic, the womb of the female is from the same root, rahim, the raham, because this is the place where God creates living things. So when He creates in the womb of the lion, the little lions, He gives them everything they need to be lions. He gives them the senses of lions, the smell of lions, the eyes of lions, the sense of smell of lions. He gives them claws. He gives them, the right weight, the right bones, the right formation of the bones. One of the great scientists of the 18th and 19th century was Cuvier. And Cuvier was the greatest scientist of that time. And he's the father of paleontology. He discovered the dinosaurs. He was an amazing person. And one of the things he showed is that he said, if you give me the bone of any animal, I can put the whole animal together. And he said, if you give me like a femur, of a leg, he said, I can tell you whether it was a grass eater, whether it was a herbivore or an omnivore, whether it was a carnivore. Because everything in you is perfectly harmonized with everything else for you to be you. That's Rahman. That's Rahman. And again, Allah says that marriage, and He means by that, the institution of marriage, and especially when we do it the way that we should do it, and we ask Allah to give us tawfiq in that, because in the end of time, marriage becomes really difficult. And that's the way it is for many Muslims and non-Muslims. Unfortunately, there are very few people who really get the benefit of that institution. But it is a sign of God when there is rahmah and mawaddah between the spouses. And the rahmah here is not just mercy, like you pardon your spouse, or your spouse pardons you. But it means that you seek to give your spouse everything that your spouse needs. Everything they need. Physically, emotionally, make sure that they're, that they eat the right things, that they have the right company, without, being difficult. But like you really want to see that they have everything to be the best they can be. That's rahmah. And that also means that you will pardon them, inshallah. You'll overlook things. But the main things like, if I'm going to cook for you, if I'm going to earn for you, if I'm going to help you get an education, or if we're going to educate the children, or put them in school, or whatever we do, that we will do this for their benefit and give them everything they need to be the best human beings they can be. That's rahmah. And that's why Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim are creative names. They're names of God as creator. Because in His rahmah, He gave you everything you need to be a human being. and also to be a worshiper of Allah and a knower of Allah. You've got the heart. Just like a swan is born with the inherent ability to swim gracefully and beautifully. You are born, with the inherent knowledge to worship God, and your heart تحقق بشهود معرفته وأحديته. Your heart has already realized the unicity of God, which your mind and my mind can never understand. And that God was, and there was with him nothing, and he is now as he was then. Between all creation and the Lord are 70,000 veils of light and darkness, of beauty and of majesty. If any of them rustle, creation would cease to exist. That's ahadiyya. That's ahadiyya. And how can I understand that? Not intellectually. But your heart knows it already. Your ruh knows it already. Your spirit knows it already. That's your shuhud. That's your witnessing. And it's in you, even though I'm unconscious of it. I don't see it. I wish I did. I don't see it, but it's there. Okay? So, rahmah is giving everything. To give the homeless what they need is rahmah. But not just because this was a kind thing to do, because you're giving them what they need to get back on their feet. That would be the real rahmah. Not just that now you have a blanket, you won't freeze tonight. No, but you have a blanket to show that somebody cares for you. May we really care for them. We should. If you are a true believer, you will be filled with compassion. That's the Prophet ﷺ is utter compassion. For the good and for the evil people. For the people who believed in it, even for Abu Jahl, even for Abu Lahab. He doesn't hate them, He feels sorry for them. He feels true compassion for them. That why didn't you believe? He wanted them to believe. So Ar-Rahman is the one who gives you everything you need. And usually we use it for general mercy. So look, every one of us have the same eyes. We all have the same kind of ears. We all have the same kind of hearts. We all have the same kind of voice box. I can talk and you can too. We both all have the same ears. You can hear the sounds and you can understand the meanings. And if you were under certain kind of medications, you wouldn't be able to do that anymore. That's a miracle that you can do that. That's all Ar-Rahman. And then Ar-Rahim, he gives you special mercies. So he gives you your eyes, which can see what you can see. Like, look at the person who saw that. Who saw that this is beautiful. This calligraphy, dignity, reverence, serenity, love, and high aspiration, adab of the dhikr. That's not me who did that. That's somebody else who has eyes that see what I can't see. I can see it's beautiful. I'm like, wow, look how you did it. And like, really, I have to think about that. And look how you made some big and some smaller. I mean, this is a person who has a special heart. And this is the Rahim. I have the heart too. You have the eyes too. You have the ears too. But this person has special eyes, special heart, special ears. Okay, you have gifts. And the greatest gift is that all of these good things that have been given to you, that they reach fruition. So then he says, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And we'll end with this. And so you see also Ar-Rahim bil-Imdad. That he is Ar-Rahim in that he gives you these additional things. He keeps on sustaining you. And he gives you the special things that you need. فَقُمْ لِلْحَمْدِ لِلْمَحْمُودِ بِقَوْلِ. So then he talks about the hamd. I'm very thankful to Shaykh Shireen that she asked me to teach this. Maybe we can finish it in the future. And I'm going to try to learn it and pray for me that I can do it. And it's made my prayers a whole lot better because I do try to do it. May you also do it. And inshallah, you'll see, it's beautiful. But, seek the blessing, not of your mind, but of this man, of this lady. That by his blessing, may Allah enable us to have this secret. Ameen. So we'll stop now, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala, and we will open the floor to questions. Is that what we do?
We can say I don't know whether you want to pray.
Yes. We should do that. Thank you. I forgot. So where's my Salah al-Muqarrabeen after that? So we should do that, right? We make Salah and then we have questions. All right. See you.